change maker. In this election, we have a very stark difference between somebody who is really identified with the status quo, Hillary Clinton, and somebody who I think is agreed, whether you like him or not, represents change, and that's Donald Trump. Now, his job here was clearly to say she represents change, talking about all the ways that she changed things in Arkansas and when she worked for the Children's Defense Fund. He said she's never satisfied with the status quo, talking about the stories told about Hillary Clinton and the stories told about Donald Trump, and saying, you know who the real one is when it comes to change. She's the real one.
And also reminding people that she is feminine, that she is a woman. As you said, talking about the meeting a girl in the spring of 1971, but then making it clear that she was sort of the object of desire, which I know that sounds a little bit, maybe a little bit, quaint or whatever, but it actually is incredibly important politically for people to hear this, because she has become, as you were saying, in many ways a caricature, because people feel that they know her, and certainly Republicans tried to paint her in a certain way last week, but talking about her as magnetic, and you really should try to feminize her, never mind as somebody who he wanted to date and went after and chased, trying to get her to marry 3 times, but also then, as he went through the years, a young mother, a working mother, and really trying to bring that part of her out that people don't really get to see.
And he took on the Republicans at the end of his speech. He really went after them. He said that there's one image of Hillary Clinton you heard at that Republican convention, the critics. There's another version of her you heard from me tonight. One is real, the other is made up. And he told the people, if you want to vote for the real Hillary Clinton, the one I told you about, the one who gets very, very has effectively done what she's trying to do all of these years.
He described, you said caricature. What he said was cartoon.
Yeah.
He said when you can't run against somebody who, because they are such a compelling change maker, you have to create a cartoon. It's much easier to run against that. The case that he's trying to make here is, yes, you've been hearing about Hillary Clinton for decades, but what you've been hearing about is not the real Hillary Clinton. It is a cartoon. Don't believe it. Believe the real person, beloved by her friends, dating all the way back to Arkansas, or even earlier than that, to her childhood.
I also wrote down the number of states that he listed off.
That was great. That was classic.
Okay, this is another example of how Bill Clinton still has it. The way he talked about, she's from Illinois, then she talked about Alaska, about Texas, about South Carolina, Massachusetts, Arkansas, as a way to sort of clearly interact with the crowd, knowing that the delegations were going to go crazy when he talked about that, but also in trying to make the point that she, at a very young age, traveled to try to help people. I thought that was a very nice
And also, with Bill Clinton, it's not enough just to say he was working on this subcommittee. It has to be the subcommittee headed by Walter Mondale, so that the people from Minnesota...
Exactly.
One other thing on the Massachusetts thing, on her visit to Massachusetts, when she was building, getting information to help children with the Children's Defense Fund, and finding that young girl and not in school because she was in a wheelchair on her porch. He said, and he didn't have to say anything more because it's been such a highlight of the Clinton campaign and their case against Donald Trump. She doesn't believe in making fun of the disabled.
Right.
She believes in empowering them. Clear contrast with when Donald Trump made fun of that disabled reporter.
It's also very important. There were a couple references, without mentioning Donald Trump by name, in which he went after Donald Trump. He said Hillary never makes fun of people with disabilities. She empowers people with disabilities, and also this whole notion that the military is a disaster. She doesn't believe that. He doesn't believe that either. All right. Well, let me tell you what's going to be coming up next. Alicia Keys is going to be performing. This is going to be the historic nature of what is happening right now. This is the first time a major political party in the United States has nominated a woman to be the nominee. Meryl Streep is going to be introducing this moment, a very powerful moment that's coming up.
And look at that patriotic outfit that Meryl Streep is wearing.
We got some fight left in us, don't we? What does it take to be the first female anything?
Grace. Deborah Sampson was the first woman to take a bullet for our country. She served disguised as a man in George Washington's Continental Army. And she fought to defend a document that didn't fully defend her. All men are created equal, it read. No mention of women. And when she took a blast in battle to her leg, she was afraid to reveal her secret. So she took out a penknife, she dug out the musket ball, and she sewed herself back up again.
Oh my God.
That's grit. And grace? Hillary Clinton has taken some fire over 40 years of her fight for families and children. How does she do it? That's what I want to know. Where does she get her grit and her grace? Where do any of our female firsts, our path breakers, where do they find that strength? Sandra Day O'Connor, Rosa Parks, Amelia Earhart, Harriet Tubman, Sally Ride, Shirley Chisholm, Madeleine Albright, Geraldine Ferrara, Eleanor Roosevelt. These women share something in common. Capacity of mind, fullness of heart, and a burning passion for their cause. They have forged new paths so that others can follow them, men and women. Generation on generation. That's Hillary. That's America. And tonight, more than 200 years after Deborah Sampson fought, and nearly 100 years after women got the vote, you people have made history. And you're going to make history again in November. Because Hillary Clinton will be our first woman president. And she will be a great president. And she will be the first in a long line of women and men who serve with grit and grace.
There we go.
She'll be the first, but she won't be the last. And now, the video.
A more perfect union. It's what our founding fathers set out to create 240 years ago. A union built on simple beliefs that all men are created equal, with a right to life, liberty, and happiness. But writing these words was not enough. Every generation would have to act on them. We would all need to be founders of this great nation. These were our founders too, who fought to make sure all men were not only created equal, but treated that way. These were the founders who stood up to say that all men meant women too. And these were the founders who marched to Stonewall and the Supreme Court for the right to be accepted for who they are and to love who they want. We needed founders to create the impossible. To say that victory was bigger than a game. To help think bigger, dream bigger, to change the world and the way we see it.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
But not all founders live in our history books. Most are brave, everyday Americans who make our country greater, one small act at a time. Founders who fill us with knowledge and faith, who put food on our table, who heal us and keep us safe. Today, we look around and see that our country is more perfect than it once was. That it is a place where more people can live where they want, learn what they want, say what they want, be.
The Beatles told Trump to stay away from their music.
Tonight, we take another step forward. Tonight, a little girl is watching this moment with her mother and grandmother, father and brother, and realizing that she too can truly be anything she wants to be. Even president.
Sure did.
Tonight, we nominate a woman who has spent the last 40 years fighting for families and children, justice and equality. A woman who will not stop fighting until our country is a better version of itself. Then, a better version of that. A woman fighting to make our great nation more perfect for all.
Women are the answer. We have the power to ensure that this country gets on the right path. I dedicate this song to the mothers of the movement and all mothers who have lost their sons and their
Wow,
daughters to
that'd be really
senseless
good.
violence. Until we deal with gun violence in this country, we can't claim home and brave. Everywhere I'm turning, nothing seems complete. Stand up and I'm searching for the better part of me. I hang my head from sorrow, study humanity.
That's okay. Hey, Mom.
On my shoulder,
Alicia Keys.
gotta find strength in me. 'Cause I am a superwoman. Yes, I am. Come on. Even when I'm a mess, I still put on the best prettiness on my chest. Oh, I'm a superwoman. When I'm breaking down and I can't be found, I start to get weak. No one knows me underneath these clothes, but I can fly. We can fly. Let me tell you, I'm a superwoman. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, yeah. You see, no, when I'm a mess, I still put on a best prettiness on my chest. Oh, yes, I'm a superwoman. Said I'm a superwoman. Big up to Bernie Sanders, where are my Bernie people at? Big up to Hillary Clinton, where are my Hillary people at? It's time to stand together and be unified. We can't let politics divide us. We have to show the world that bigotry and fear will never win, because we have so much in common. Said I'd be gone by 5 till the sunrise and I'm still in your bed. Good night usually means goodbye. Me replaying memories in my head. Look at you, look at you, look what you made me do. How do you Let me see your hands in the air. Tonight is a celebration because we are stronger together. The way forward is with acceptance and love. Let's acknowledge our differences and celebrate them. Dr. King said the last word must always be love. We got way too much time. If I'm being honest with you, we got way too much time. Since I'm being honest with you, we gotta love. It's time to love. Oh yeah, yeah. We gotta love. It's time to love. Oh yeah. La 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 la. Yeah. Are you here for love? If you feel what I'm saying, say yeah! Put
Wow.
your hands in the air!
Man, this is hot.
Tonight is an incredible night for American history
Wow.
and feminist history. Don't waste the vote. Vote for Hillary Clinton because love will always win!
Woohoo. They're going through all the presidents now. In order. Nobody has beards or mustaches anymore. The beards disappeared in the 1880s. How about that? Mustaches, not long afterwards. Nobody. Look at that. Nobody. Before everybody. Oh my God. The glass ceiling. Oh my God. Talk about stagecraft, huh, Gene? Just made those other guys look like rank amateurs. Wow. Look at Chelsea's face. It's all getting uploaded tonight, too.
I am so happy. It's been a great day and night. What an incredible honor that you have given me. And I can't believe we just put the biggest crack in that glass ceiling yet. Thanks to you, everyone who fought so hard to
Oh,
make
that is
this
so funny.
possible. This is really your victory. This is really your night. And if there are any little girls out there who stayed up late to watch, let me just say, I may become the first woman president, but one of you is next. Thank you all. I can't wait. Thank you.
Wow. I gotta say that was slick, huh? They've been holding this stuff in reserve, man. This is just the beginning. I can see it right now.
publicly. There's been so much talk over the years of kind of reintroducing Hillary Clinton. We've heard that phrase time and time again. The former president did it in a way that was just telling a story that had this entire convention, just on the edge of their seat.
An incredibly personal story that has incredible political importance if he can sell it. Bill Clinton has been very effective over the years. All goes back to the Clinton White House. We used to always say after State of the Union addresses, boy, that was 20 minutes too long, but the reviews from the American people were always good. His 2012 speech, David can tell you, people inside the Romney and inside the Obama campaign say that it made a huge difference at a key moment in the case against Mitt Romney. Tonight, he's trying to say he's a reality TV star. She's the real one. Change is hard. I know you want it. A lot of you think she's been around a long time. How can somebody you've known for 25 or 30 years be different, be changed, be new? Trying to make that case tonight in a very, in a very Bill Clinton way. He speaks very simply, and sometimes you think it's kind of, oh, shucks. But over the years, a lot of people who do what we do for a living have kind of said, and then you find out the American people said,
You know, to me, made her relatable.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton has never been relatable to people. She's Secretary of State, she was First Lady, and all the rest. Today he told the story of how they met and fell in love and how he courted her. And then, to John's point, he made it a very simple choice. Either you choose to believe it or you don't. It's real or it's fake. I'm telling you that the real person is the one that all these people love and respect, including myself, and made her into somebody that people can understand, particularly women, of course.
Well, David, it was interesting, starting out, it was interwoven, their relationship
Yes.
with also her resume.
Yes, and I first of all, let's just stipulate, this guy's one of a kind. There's nobody else who can turn an auditorium like this into as intimate a place as he did tonight. And I think the first 25 minutes of the speech were the most important. John talks about what he can sell. I think he did best when he wasn't selling. I think he did best when he was telling. And just relating the story of their lives together and giving a sense of dimensionality that frankly she's not good at doing. She's a very sort of defended person in many ways, and she doesn't share these stories in that way. And
I totally agree. So many people have said that, people know her. She's been in the public eye for 30 years, 40 years. It's impossible to humanize her between now and the election. I think he just did. The story of their courtship, how he wooed her, dropping Chelsea off at college. I have a daughter that I'm going to drop off in the fall. These stories resonate with people.
Let me tell you.
I know. I'm not looking forward to it. But these stories resonate with people. They resonate with women, with mothers, with families.
Paul,
She did a great job.
You work for the President Clinton. You've heard a lot of his speeches.
I kind of like the guy. I had nothing to do with this speech, but I'll give you an idea of the process, the way he comes at this. He has never, I've 25 years been doing speeches for him. He never calls it a speech, not an address, not an oration. It's a talk. Let's give it a talk. I think what Axe said is really important. It's like sitting around the nail bed at the hardware store I used to work at as a kid. People would just sit around and they talk. That's the first thing. Part of that, the secret to doing that is he doesn't rebut, he reframes. Right? And those of us who had high school debate, we're taught very classically. They say A, I say not A. He doesn't like to do that as much. He likes to reframe. It's much more subtle. It's more gentle. It's more respectful, actually, of the opposition and of your audience. And he loves the power of narrative and a story. And he is a Southerner to his core. He's Mark Twain. You think he's kind of just taking you on a little lazy trip down the river, and by the end, he's explained the meaning of life. It's really a remarkable gift. I love the guy. But I think that's how he gets to that place.
I thought what was most effective was you really began to see Hillary Clinton at different stages of her life. He talked about the sort of a cartoon character and the two-dimensionality, the kind of figure that we have in some ways come to know Hillary Clinton as. But we began to see her at different places, registering Mexican immigrants, helping with the Children's Defense Fund, fighting segregation in the South. So I thought it was very effective, and it wrapped up everything we heard tonight from other people who had similar stories. So it was very much, I thought, it backed all of that up, and I think it filled her in a lot.
I almost feel badly. Like the Grinch here, or I think that's why you're here, man. That's your job. Or like you're about to steal the lollipops from all my happy liberal friends.
Tonight in Politico, there's a story that Governor McAuliffe of Virginia, a Clinton friend, is on record saying that Hillary Clinton will flip on TPP, and he's had to walk it back, apparently. My point is that what that speech was designed to accomplish in part was to say that the view of Hillary Clinton as not a cynical politician, that she's not a cynical politician, etc. Headlines like this reinforce that notion, and that is going to be part of the problem here ongoing for her, is that she's not trusted by a lot of the American people. They don't believe her. You know, you can go back to all the Clinton things, etc. That's going to be a problem for her, I think.
You know, what's so remarkable, though, is that there are going to be some people. Hillary Clinton is just like a bunch of dots until tonight. So she's this, she's that, she's this, she's that, she's this, she's that, and she's kind of allowed herself to be interpreted by her enemies way too much. So you could definitely cherry pick some dots. I've never actually heard the dots put together in a way where I go, oh, that's who she is. She's kind of like this workaholic do-gooder chick.
Yeah.
Hey, great. Like I know people like that. Up until now, she's been like this mystery, and it almost you're able to then project whatever you want to on her. This is the most. Tonight was the first time I actually saw the dots put together in the right way.
It's also interesting because you think back to, okay, what do we know about Donald Trump in college? We know Donald Trump saying, I went to one of the best schools, Wharton School, and it's a great school and I'm really smart. We actually now, for the first time at least, I've heard, oh, okay, so Hillary Clinton did all these things in college. Like, oh, she worked at the Yale Child Study Center where I actually took a class. She, did all these, she worked in the hospital. Oh, I mean, it did sort of fill in, I think, a gap in a chronology that I think a lot of people...
At least it gets people who want to give her the benefit of the doubt a storyline. Up until now, I don't think that's
Jeffrey, let's stipulate your point, because I'm sure this is one of the vulnerabilities that she has, and it's going to... You guys will prosecute that, and it's not going to be wiped away in one day or maybe in one convention. But what we saw tonight was what we didn't see as much as we should have in Cleveland, which was the fleshing out with stories and anecdotes from the life of Hillary Clinton that gives people a richer sense of who she is.
I thought his kids did that. I thought his kids were very good with that.
They were mostly stories about and this may be just because they didn't actually grow up with him as much, but there were stories about his interaction with them as a mentor in business as much as anything else.
Well, I mean, that's their family life story. When you listen to these stories about Hillary Clinton, what are they? They are stories about her involvement in politics and government and public service.
Well, and also stories about her as a mother.
But what Bill Clinton did was the old phrase, all politics is personal. He took the politics and he made it personal, whether she was a young woman at Yale. And also one other thing that I must say that struck me was this notion that Hillary Clinton is old, she's been around a long time. He said, yeah, if she's been around a long time, that is absolutely true. And she's worth every single year of it. And then he went on to describe what she's done over those decades.
Bill Clinton's gift, whatever his personal campaign, go back to the 1992 primaries, Jennifer Flowers, draft controversy, when he's been in trouble, the presidency, mostly because of Monica Lewinsky, other issues that had hurt his approval. His gift has always been, when he is challenged, to say, yes, there are some questions about me, but I'm trying to fight for you, to turn to people. And I think that's what he's trying to do. They're going to say she's old, they're going to say she's changed, they're going to say she's part of the status quo, but look at her life fighting for you. And she keeps coming back. And that's what he did for President Obama at a tough time in 2012. We can't double down on trickle down. What the president's doing is very hard. Trust me, I've had this job. It's very hard. Yes, he hasn't given you everything you want. Yes, progress hasn't come as fast as you'd like. But trust me, I know this job, and he's fighting for you. That's always been his gift. Will it work this time? We'll see. Jeffrey makes a key point. This is an incredibly tough dynamic to be part of the political establishment because people are clamoring for change. Right. But he makes the connection between what politicians do and how it can affect real people in a compelling way.
Let me also ask something, though. Tonight was the first night the word ISIS was actually mentioned. This is night 2 now of this convention. We've had another terror attack, a priest killed during a service. are they missing something here by not bringing this up? I think it was mentioned once, perhaps twice tonight. Bill Clinton also kind of made a reference to Muslims in America. But does it strike anybody as odd?
Yeah, well, I think it's a very good point. And again, I'll say what I said before, which is I think we have to judge this at the end of the thing, because you know General Allen is speaking on Thursday night, and he's going to address that. I suspect you'll hear some of this from the Vice President, from the President tomorrow, and others. So, they clearly have a plan here.
Right, and it was going to a plan more than the Republican convention, which was many repetitive messages.
One of the underlying things, the Clintons, both of them, and for that matter myself, and looking around here, others, are of the baby boomer generation in the 60s and all this kind of thing. And there was finally a sort of a fissure there.
Don't let the gray hair fool you.
There was a fissure here, and you had sort of a lot of us who might have been more liberal in our youth that were Reaganized or what have you and became more conservative. And we were opposed to the McGovernites of the world, etc. The McGovernite worldview, more or less, controls the Democratic Party to this day. And what it says to a lot of people in subtext is weakness on foreign policy issues. So that's one of the problems that, and then you want to feed in her record, whether it's Russia or Benghazi or, any number of things, that it feeds into that. And that's in this situation with ISIS, that's a difficult deal.
Often a problem with Democrats, it's often a problem with women. It's not a problem with this woman, Democrat. Again, I've known her 25 years. People ask me all kinds of things. Never once has someone said, gee, I wonder if she's strong. Holy moly. But 2 beers into it, they're making all kind of,
you also
how strong she is.
It's also interesting because you have a lot of the Republican foreign policy establishment actually backing her over Donald Trump.
Right. And the emphasis there would be establishment as opposed to Republican, I would suggest.
I wonder if President Clinton wasn't watching Jeffrey last night, because he raised one of the most important structural things about this race. 2/3 of the country is unhappy with the direction we're going in.
Yeah.
My party is the party of continuity. We're the party of the White House, we're the party of President Obama. Hillary was in his cabinet. She's not breaking with him. She didn't in the primaries. She's not in the general election. Jeffrey, you made that point. I think President Clinton tried really effectively tonight to reframe it when he said, this woman has never been satisfied with the status quo. She always wants to move the ball forward.
You're making me sound like David Gergen.
He cast her as a change maker. No, I have not talked to him about the speech, but I bet you he got that from Warren. I bet you he was sitting there listening to Jeffrey last night saying, oh, wait, I got to address that.
Jeffrey's hero made that same point. The only other time in our lifetime it's happened, when George H.W. Bush succeeded Ronald Reagan. Normally, after a 2-term presidency, you have to switch in parties. And Ronald Reagan came to the convention in '84 and said, we are the change.
Right.
And made that case for George H.W. Bush.
I just wonder, again, I may be dead wrong about this, because this guy is so skilled and so good at what he does, but I just believe that the most effective part of that speech was the storytelling part of that speech. I think when, everybody's seen Bill Clinton make these political arguments a million times. What they haven't seen is those personal kinds of observations, and I think those were the things that were most necessary.
I think even bigger than that, though, was just the willingness finally to call this for what it is. A huge moment in history. When you saw that breakthrough, you saw male after male after male president. I mean, just an endless sea, and then finally you see her, and she's surrounded by these young women. I think that reluctance to own that in 2008 hurt them. I think tonight, if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, if you're independent, you've got to take some pride in the country right now. And I think that they did a very good job of opening that door. Also, I thought Alicia Keys coming out, who's kind of this new kind of hip feminist spokeswoman, who's also working very hard on criminal justice issues, and I've got a chance to see her do that stuff up close. For her to come out and bring that spirit, and to come out and tell the crowd, hey, let me hear from my Bernie people. Let me hear from my Hillary people. We have to stand together against bigotry. All that stuff, this was a feel-good convention, whereas the last convention, the Republican convention, was a feel-bad convention.
Can I talk to David's point for 1 second about the personal side? He came out
He's a guy, too. He did it, and he's a guy.
And he's a guy. but he's Bill Clinton, and nobody was like him.
Okay, fair enough.
But he bragged about his wife.
That's nice.
He just bragged about his wife. He said, you know, you plop her down anywhere, and there's a problem, and she's going to figure out a way to
Make it better.
make it better. And I thought, okay, that's a husband bragging on his
And the
wife.
other part I
Which
thought was
nice.
really endearing too is that he pursued her and she rejected him many times. It was like, you know, I asked her once, I asked her twice, I followed her around. I mean, that's just very endearing. He's clearly still in love with this woman, you know? He's
One of the interesting things I found here in the speech was when they ran through the list of women, I guess it was Meryl Streep who ran through the list of women. Now, admittedly, this is the Democratic Convention and they're not going to mention the name Sarah Palin. However, Sarah Palin is, other than Geraldine Ferraro, the only other woman who's been on a national ticket. And what I'm suggesting to you is, and we've had more than our share of discussions on race, I suggest this applies to gender as well, that there is an assumption here that to be a woman means that you are a liberal. And you get outside of, you know, a lot of places in New York and Washington, and that's not the case. There are a lot.
Well, they did say Sandra Day O'Connor, I think.
Right, but who was viewed, I think, by a lot of these folks as, you know, a moderate and all that kind of thing. I mean, but any conservative woman,
let me try.
we're not celebrating Ann Coulter here tonight.
Let me try and decidedly not. Let me try and weave your points together here. You know, when I was working for Barack Obama and he was running for president, in 2008. I got a call from a school teacher on the west side of Chicago who taught that he's a young man who grew up with my son.
Yeah, a piece of that chicken cut up?
Mostly black and Hispanic class on the west side of Chicago. And he called and he was teaching history. And he said we were teaching the president, you know? And a kid raised his hand and said, how come all these dudes are white guys? And he said, well, that's true, but, you know, our Senator, Barack Obama, he could be the next president. He said, these kids, their eyes got wide, and their vistas got wider. And I think, you know, even though we said earlier that we take for granted partly because of Barack Obama, partly because Hillary Clinton came so close in 2008, we take for granted that a woman may become president of the United States. But let's not discount what it means to young kids.
Yeah, listen, the power of Barack Obama, as you call him, President Obama, those of us who are this close, but the power of President Obama as president has always been less than his power as precedent. It's the precedent that he set that you could dream that big. And I know for myself, I had my little boys, now my big boys, sitting on my lap, and when Obama when he won, I was crying on my son, and my son got up and he ran over to my mother and he said, Mommy, what is history and why does it make Daddy cry? Wow. It's history, son. It's history, son. And I think there's going to be a lot of moms and grandmas tonight telling their granddaughters and daughters, this is history.
We are going to have, I mean, when you pull back and look at the existence of the United States now, wherever we are here, 200 and some odd years old, we're going to have presidents of the United States. We're going to have men, we're going to have women, we're going to have Latinos, Black, Jews, etc., etc., etc. But again, I don't want to be mean to all of you. You're not all going to be liberal.
But why not? Where is Nikki Haley? Where are some of your women who maybe they're not as liberal as I am, but they certainly are not in the Donald Trump camp in your party?
Yeah, well, I think that some of this is Trump specific for some of these folks, but I assure you, if Donald Trump didn't exist and Nikki Haley were the Republican nominee for president in this moment, I assure you, as they did with Sarah Palin, they'd have gone after her tooth and nail, and she would have emerged as some sort of dumb, you know, I mean, there's a stereotype here that goes on with conservatives. When I talk to a lot of conservative women, African Americans who are conservative, Latinos who are conservative, and they feel that they are, you know, attacked because they more or less, from their view, to use a phrase common on our side, left the plantation, and they think for themselves, and etc. You talk to my African American friend Deneen Borelli from Conservative Review with me. I mean, she can give you a chapter and verse on this kind of thing. So I just think that
I think it is fair to say that Hillary has occasionally been criticized. So yes, of course, whether the Republicans nominate Democrats can attack their Democrats. It is something that this country, which was founded walking distance, a long walk, but a walking distance from where we are sitting, 144 years did not let women even vote.
Right. And you know
And
what?
now we've nominated one from one of our major
And when
parties.
we finally persuaded your party to go along with this, we got it passed.
You know,
Everybody hangs on to that 19th century. It's his go-to thing.
Actually, that was 20th century. That was.
Yes, it was.
you know how we were talking about earlier, how you hadn't made the appeal to those white men who did, who don't like Hillary Clinton, et cetera, et cetera. I think Bill Clinton did that tonight. I think he started doing that tonight. She sent me to coal country because we're going to work for you. She told me to tell you. She sent me down there, and we all know she'd made a mistake in West Virginia. So I think he started to reach out and broaden and make that appeal. I mean, nobody can give a speech like Bill Clinton, but I think he did everything he had to do and more.
You know, if he couldn't do this for his vice president, can he do this? I mean that seriously. If he couldn't do it for Al Gore, can he do it for her? His vice president.
Al Gore didn't want him to, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I think that's the wrong question.
Arkansas.
I think it's the wrong question because he did a different thing tonight. He wasn't here as a president handing off. He was here talking about his wife and trying to give people a richer appreciation. Look, everything is going to be resolved this week. We're not, as I said last night, we're not going to know what impact these conventions have for some time. And no one, I guarantee you this, no one in this election is going to come out with a white flag, saying, man, that was a great convention, I surrender. I don't expect that. But
Donald Trump does want you to know it was a stupendous convention. I just want you to know that again.
Well, and I'm glad he went home happy.
I think the Democrats may have a little bit of a problem, though, which is with Donald Trump. He says basically this is about inclusion. The Democrats, they're about inclusion. Trump seems to be about exclusion. We don't like the Muslims, we don't like the Mexicans, etc. But guess what? That actually gets him something. It gets him a very easy answer on two problems. National security, I'm going to exclude the Muslims, that's going to make you more secure. And then economic security, I'm going to exclude the Mexicans and I'm going to beat up on China. That's going to make you more secure economically. So even though we maybe react to that exclusivity, and we say we want inclusivity, well, hold on a second. His exclusivity got him to some answers that are important. I have not heard us round the bases yet. I think we are still making the case tonight about inclusion, but we have not hit powerfully on national security and not powerfully yet. Compared with
as I said earlier, though, I mean, we should review this on Thursday night because if those bases aren't rounded by Thursday night, this is a legitimate critique. But they clearly have a plan that they were going to do what they did yesterday, which was largely hitting Trump. Tonight was personal insights into Hillary Clinton, people who have been touched by her, finishing with the president. Tomorrow, I think you're going to get into some more of these issues with the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States.
It was also to our earlier point about talking about police officers and the difficult job they have, the dangers they face routinely every day. Bill Clinton did sort of try to thread that needle. I mean, talked about African American, males who are scared on the streets, to also acknowledge, given what we saw in Dallas on Friday, the brave response by police officers.
Yeah.
He did. He tried to navigate that. He tried to navigate men. He tried to make Hillary Clinton likable, not a caricature anymore, I think, and tell a story about her life and how she came to be who she is. I mean, I think he hit every point, but I agree with David, one thing at a time. First have people actually like her.
Well, first like each other, because we thought we were going to have a civil war yesterday. So
like each other. Okay, like each other, then like her. Okay.
Just Mary, while we've been in here, the Philly.com, which is the Philadelphia Daily News and Inquirer, has been putting out stories here that there was, in fact, a protest outside with some flag burning, which has now moved apparently to a candlelight vigil. So, and these were Bernie people.
Yeah, so. And what I'll say about that is, as a good California lefty, every single convention of my entire adult life, the far left, of which I used to be a proud member, will come and used to be, and now I'm just like the near far.
You're the near far left. You've moderated him.
Exactly. Hanging around you now, I'm the near far left. But every convention, you have to be about Bernie. Every convention, a certain section of the far left comes and protests and does this kind of thing. I don't think it necessarily translates into the actual mechanics of this election. I just don't.
Can I bring up a different point? We saw a spouse tonight, not the former president. Didn't talk about his legacy and his record, which he's sometimes prone to do.
Although they had a 10-minute
They did it in the video.
Thank God for that.
Great way to do it.
But also didn't talk very much about what President Obama has done, as he did four years ago. He talked as a spouse. And you probably believe this. Hillary Clinton didn't speak at the 1992 convention. She didn't give a speech. Back then, spouses didn't speak, and she was our best validator. I mean, she's the reason he survived and got nominated. She did go on 60 Minutes when he's in trouble. She didn't give a speech at all. And now, it is the norm. Melania Trump, I thought, did a fine job. She had a hiccup, and it caused problems. They didn't handle it well. How they handled it was worse than what she did. But the current First Lady set an impossibly high bar. Now the spouse of the current nominee, it's just going to be up. Ann Romney in 2012 gave one of the best convention speeches at the Republican convention. Now this is good. So all of you who are thinking about going into politics, marry up.
So let me step on a third rail here. And if I'm not here tomorrow night, you'll know why. But one thing I wondered about was, would he in any way talk about the fact that he had inflicted burdens and pain, and that she kept their family together and led them through? I really wondered whether he would go there.
He said heartbreak at one point.
Yeah, he said heartbreak. Good times and bad, he said.
In the mud huts of Mongolia, they know about that. I just don't think he wants to cover that.
No, I understand that, but
it could have been powerful.
Yeah, you get
It also, I mean, again, this conversation is, I gotta say, early on when he was talking about some of the things, or the skirt she wore, I mean, I think certainly in some people's minds, perhaps some people maybe are inclined not to like the former president, you couldn't help but sort of think, oh, wait a minute, he's...
Yeah, I think in everyone's I think in everyone's mind...
that made it an authentic story.
Yeah, well, that's
but everything about
Donald Trump has retweeted a Juanita Broaddrick post from January this year. So I'm just saying,
Donald Trump also tweeted the night he spoke at the Obama convention in 2012 what a brilliant idea it was for the Democrats to have Bill Clinton speak. That was a different Donald Trump back then. His politics.
when they go low, we go high.
That's right. Everything about Bill Clinton is a two-sided coin. He has amazing gifts. As David said, I covered him for a long time back in the 80s. I drove Paul crazy a lot through that time, 80s and the 90s. And he's as gifted as they come. So I'm taking sides in politics. The Republicans will tell you that because he drove them nuts for 20 years. He's as gifted as they come, but there's also the baggage. There's the Monica Lewinsky baggage, the personal character baggage. There's also, in the Republican primaries, we learned voters didn't want a dynasty. They didn't want a Bush. And now you have a Clinton who was a president talking about a Clinton, let's make her president. Some people will love that. Other people will say that's not what we want. We don't need that. So that's what you get with Bill
And
Clinton.
I think for Bill Clinton, who oftentimes has, not only within their marriage, had some heartbreak there, but oftentimes as a surrogate has hurt his life. I think the question is, out of this speech, can he sort of maintain an ability to really humanize his wife and really be a powerful surrogate without stepping on whatever their message is of the day?
Yeah, there are so many surrogates out there for her.
Yeah.
I think what he did tonight, and speaking about the personal side of her and what motivates her and who she is as a mother, and I just think that's so much more valuable than him being just another political surrogate out on the stump. She's got plenty of those.
And it wasn't phony. I mean, you talk about the baggage and the Lewinsky and all this, but they've survived it.
Yeah.
And they love each stories. Other. Well, I mean, they do. You would know that better than I do, but because I don't know anything about it at all. But if you say so, but when he talked about her when they met, it was sort of lovingly, describing the skirt that she was wearing, the little hippie skirt with the flowers on or whatever it was, the thick eyeglasses. We've all seen those pictures of Hillary Clinton, how he was kind of shy about tapping her on the back. And, these are not only humanizing, but it tells you something about their relationship that has survived all of this, and that he can go back to those days and talk about it publicly.
And I agree with David. He's fantastic. He is a political genius in my view. But when people attack his wife, he's not so good. You know, when he defends his wife, he's a husband as opposed to a political genius. And so I agree with David. I think we have so many surrogates. Hillary has so many surrogates out there. I think he is better served humanizing her.
Can I note one other thing that happened tonight that will be buried in the reporting of the Bill Clinton speech and some of these other things? Madeleine Albright, when she was speaking, made just flat out suggested that Vladimir Putin was rooting for Donald Trump in this race, and it comes at a time when the New York Times tonight printed a story that basically validated the notion that these leaks, the hacking of the DNC computer may have been done by Russia. Jeffrey, I'm not trying to incite you because I don't know the facts of this, but the fact that she made that point suggests to me this is not going to go away.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. I think this is our first break in like an hour. Coming up, Bill Clinton's response to Donald Trump. Did the former president counter the Republicans' claims that his wife represents the status quo? More convention coverage after this.